You know, throughout our country is a nation with tremendous blessings, but the one we've consistently had is no shortage of brave men and women willing to serve our nation in time of need, even to this day. Your service and those that came before you and those that are serving now have made America what it is today, the single greatest society in all of human history. In his second inaugural address, Abraham Lincoln called upon our nation to care for him who shall have borne the battle and for his widow and his orphan. That is the essence of what all Americans owe veterans. Washington, D.C. today is as polarized as it has ever been. But if there is one issue that I believe unites both parties and all Americans, is the obligation that we have to the men and women who have served our country and continue to do so to this day and to their families. But this commitment has to be backed up by real actions. Ensuring the Department of Veteran Affairs is appropriately funded, fully modernized, seamlessly transitioning service members as they leave active duty, and processing claims quickly and effectively. Ensuring that all of our veterans are aware and receive the benefits that are promised to them. Ensuring that the VA remains a department with a cabinet-level secretary. I really have hoped that the two parties can unite behind these ideas and these principles to ensure that Lincoln's words today mean as much as they did nearly 150 years ago. And I would add to that one of the things that we have to ensure is that no new program and no new idea infringe or impede the ability of this government to financially live up to the obligations it has made to the men and women who have served us so well in our armed forces. Your sacrifice has secured an exceptional and great America for us, for my generation, and for generations to come. And the only way to truly, fully honor that is not just by making sure that government programs work well, but to ensure that America remains exceptional for the next generation. That is if we do not do that, we are not honoring your service that you have done to our country. And right now there are two major things facing America which threaten to rob us of our exceptionalism. The first is economic in nature. We basically have a government that spends more money than it takes in. It's resulted in a $13 trillion debt that grows at $5 billion a day. Everyone understands what happens to any entity that spends more money than it takes in over an extended period of time. It goes bankrupt. In fact, Ronald Reagan once said that America had a rendezvous with destiny. But if he saw the numbers we have today, he would probably say we also now have a rendezvous with bankruptcy. It cannot continue. It must be addressed. That's why we have to get rid of the gimmicks and the accounting games that go on in Washington, D.C. with the way that the budgets are put together. They have allowed the federal government, under both parties, quite frankly, to grow the federal debt right underneath our nose in a way that no one noticed until it's been too big. We must change the process of budgeting. We must deal with the entitlement programs that threaten to bankrupt America. The second thing that threatens America's exceptionalism is a new take on foreign policy that I believe makes the world more dangerous. For decades now, the world has depended on a strong American leadership backed up by strong American military power. But now that seems to be increasingly absent in the world. In fact, it appears that Washington, D.C. wants to abdicate America's position and instead replace it with the United Nations and other international bodies, who have their place, but will never be able to replace what American power and American leadership once did and hopes to still do in the world. The truth is that the risks we face today are as great as any we have ever confronted. And for us to truly be prepared to leave our children with an exceptional society will require us to do anything and everything we can to ensure that America remains the strongest nation on earth, because I believe, as you do, and I think the vast majority of Americans do, that the world is a safer place when America is the strongest nation on the earth. I say this to you at a time when I think there's still a debate and doubt going on about whether Americans in the 21st century are made of the same mold of the Americans of the 19th and 20th century. There are some who recognize that throughout our history, America has counted on leadership in every generation to rise and face the great challenges of our time. And because we did, every single generation of American has left the next generation better off. And that is the point at which we've arrived again. And I have absolutely no doubt that this new generation of American is willing to stand up and face the great challenges of our time and ensure that America remains exceptional for at least, if not one generation more. That is the road on which we stand. And that's why it's so important that your service to our country be honored, not just by government programs, which are very important to ensure that we keep our promise to the men and women that have served us, but also by ensuring that the sacrifices that were made on our behalf are not in vain. that the single greatest society in all of human history is not somehow lost within our lifetime. That we will not have to one day explain to our children and grandchildren how our generation failed to do what every American before us did, and that is confront the great challenges of our time and solve them, rather than allow them to consume us. We are not prepared to allow our children to become the first generation of Americans to inherit a diminished country, and we are not prepared to become the first generation of Americans to leave the next worse off. That is the great cause of our moment. It is one which I believe all Americans across party lines share. It is one that I hope will unite us as Americans again. I believe that it will. I believe it starts this year. Again, I thank you for the opportunity to speak to you. I'm honored and privileged every time I stand before folks who have given so much in the service of this great country. I was born with the privilege of being a citizen of the single greatest society in all of human history. And I know that that is thanks to the efforts and the sacrifices of brave men and women who came before us. So again, I thank you for the work you do, and I thank you for this invitation. Thank you so much.